The film begins with a girl named Katie in a taxi going to work. When she gets to work, Katie is busy helping customers. She also asks a coworker to help her find a good photographer because she wants to update her modeling portfolio. But good photographers cost a lot of money, so Katie decides to wait. Later, when Katie is getting ready to go home, she finds a brochure offering free photographer services for portfolios. She takes the brochure with the phone number and then goes home. When Katie gets to her apartment and goes into her room, she hears a noise from her friend Jason's room. At that time, Jason is trying to catch some wild mice, so Katie helps him by setting traps. After that, Katie goes back to her apartment and starts putting food in the fridge. Then she looks at her portfolio and decides to call a photographer who offers free photos. Soon after, Katie calls the photographer, whose name is Ivan. Ivan knows her name because it shows up on his phone. He asks Katie to send him an original photo, so she takes a selfie and sends it to him. After that, they agree to meet. The next day, even though it's snowing heavily, Katie goes to the photographer's place. There, she meets Ivan's younger brother, Georgie, and they introduce themselves. Shortly after, Georgie calls Ivan, who is busy taking pictures of another model. Then, Ivan stops what he's doing when he finds out Katie has arrived. Soon after, Katie quickly changed clothes and asked Georgie to help her take off her necklace. Turns out, Georgie seemed to like her from the moment he saw her. Afterward, Katie's photo shoot started. But in the middle of it, Ivan asked Katie to wear more revealing clothes. Hearing that, she refused, and they started arguing. This woke up Ivan's other brother, Nikolai. In the end, Katie decided to stop the photo shoot and go back to her apartment. When she got to her apartment, Katie cried, feeling frustrated by what happened. In the afternoon, after exercising, Katie was surprised to see Georgie at her apartment. He brought a flash drive with her photos from the photo shoot. Soon after, Katie took the flash drive and gently pushed Georgie away. She told him she wasn't angry, but Georgie didn't seem happy with her reaction. He still tried to be nice to Katie, but Katie was cold and distant. So, he left her apartment. After leaving Katie's apartment, Georgie was seen looking at her photos. That evening, Katie went out to take out the trash without closing her bedroom door properly. After throwing out the trash, she went back into her apartment, locked the door, turned off the lights, cleaned up, and got ready for bed. While Katie was fast asleep, she heard the sound of a cell phone camera in the dark. She woke up and turned on her nightlight. She saw Georgie already in her room. There, Katie threatened Georgie and told him to leave. But Georgie didn't listen and tried to talk to her. Katie got very angry and used a stun gun on his face. Then, Katie ran towards the door. Unfortunately, Georgie caught her and dragged her back into the apartment. Because of that, Georgie was very upset, and in the struggle, Katie accidentally bumped her head on the floor. After that, Georgie did something to Katie and tied her hands and feet. Soon, Jason knocked on Katie's door and came inside. When Jason tried to help her, Georgie appeared and stabbed him in the stomach several times, leaving him badly injured. Then, Georgie did something very bad to Katie in front of the dying Jason. After he was done, Georgie seemed to realize what he had done and called his two older brothers, Ivan and Nikolai, to come to Katie's apartment. When Ivan and Nikolai arrived, Ivan took control of the situation. He cleaned up the place and decided to frame Katie for Jason's death by putting her fingerprints on the knife Georgie used. Then, they gave Katie an anesthetic, making her faint. While she was semi-conscious, Katie realized she was being taken somewhere. Eventually, she found out that Nikolai was also doing something very bad to her. Katie's hands were handcuffed, and she wasn't wearing any clothes. Not long after, Georgie came and stopped Nikolai. Katie felt thirsty and asked Georgie for a drink. But Nikolai played a very mean trick on her instead. This made Georgie very angry, and he started fighting with Nikolai. Soon, Ivan came and stopped the fight, telling his brothers to go upstairs. Ivan then covered Katie and left her, still angry and struggling. Katie eventually got tired and started crying. Later, Ivan, Georgie, and Nikolai returned. Ivan woke Katie up by throwing a bucket of water on her and told her to clean herself. However, Katie refused, so Georgie tried to help, but she pushed him away. Finally, they forced Katie to swallow anesthetic to calm her down. After that, Georgie tried again to clean her and then went to get clothes for her. When Georgie left, Katie saw a window and used the chance to spit out the medicine she had swallowed. She pretended to be asleep when Georgie came back. He removed her handcuffs and dressed her. After that, Katie woke up and attacked Georgie, knocking him out. She escaped through the window and tried to stop passing cars for help, but no one helped her. Eventually, she met a detective named Kirill. At that time, Kirill helped Katie and took her into his car. He tried to calm her down and told her that she was in Bulgaria. Katie was shocked because she didn't remember how she got there. Meanwhile, Nikolai went to the basement and was surprised to see Georgie injured and Katie gone. Later, Katie was in Kirill's room. Kirill suggested she see a doctor, but she refused. Kirill thought she might be drunk or on drugs. But there, Katie insisted on going to the American embassy and refused his help. Not long after, a psychologist named Anna arrived. Kirill was surprised and not ready to let Katie go with Anna since she came so quickly. There, Anna asked Kirill to speak English, so Katie wouldn't get suspicious. Anna then asked Kirill to get 2 cups of coffee, signaling that she wanted to talk to Katie alone. Soon after, Anna and Katie had a heart-to-heart talk, woman to woman. At that time, Anna convinced Katie to leave Kirill's place. They planned to go to the American embassy after stopping by Anna's house. On the way, Anna called someone, explaining Katie's condition and saying she would bring Katie to them. When they reached Anna's house, Anna took Katie to a storage room downstairs. Shockingly, it was the same place where Katie had been held before. Soon after, Ivan appeared, and Katie turned towards Anna for help. But Anna angrily accused Katie of hurting her family and did something very rude. Anna then slapped Katie, and Ivan hurt her again. Then, he hurt Katie by pinching her body. Suddenly, an old man named Vako, carrying a taser, came to Katie. Meanwhile, Anna turned on loud music upstairs, hugged a doll, and sat in a rocking chair. In the basement, Vako, who was the father of Ivan and his brothers, told his children to leave him alone with Katie. Vako then used the taser on Katie and hurt her. After Vako left, Ivan returned to find Katie bleeding and weak. Katie tried to defend herself with her remaining strength, but Ivan responded by pushing her away. Long story short, the 3 brothers started making a hidden spot in the room for Katie. Before they buried her, Ivan said that if Katie had taken off her clothes during the photo shoot in New York, maybe this wouldn't have happened. Soon after, Katie was stripped by Nikolai and put in a coffin. Before closing the coffin, Georgie gave her a necklace and said goodbye. Finally, they placed Katie in a hidden spot and covered her. In the darkness, Katie was still crying because she wanted to live. After a while, the coffin fell into a drainage ditch and Katie survived. Meanwhile, Georgie was with Anna. Ivan and Nikolai were discussing their plans for the future since they couldn't go back to New York because it was too risky. In the sewers, Katie tried to get up and find clothes and food. She caught something and roasted it to eat. Then, Katie walked along the sewer and found an opening that led to a house, which turned out to be a church. Katie snuck into the church kitchen and stole some food. Soon, a pastor appeared and offered to help her. But Katie found it hard to trust people, so the pastor just gave her clothes, shoes, and books to take back to the sewers. Shortly after, Katie walked through the sewers and finally reached the edge of a road, arriving in front of the United States Embassy building. In the evening, she went back to the church. The pastor approached her again, trying to talk, but Katie still didn't trust anyone and left. She left the Bible the pastor had given her, with a page about revenge marked. Then, Katie decided to take revenge and went to Anna's family's house. After making sure it was safe, Katie sneaked in and took some money that Anna had saved. That night, Katie followed Nikolai to a nightclub. The next day, Georgie was relaxing in a cafe. Then, a girl gave him a drink, and when Georgie drank it, he choked on Katie's necklace. Shortly after, Georgie saw Katie and followed her to the sewers. At that time, Katie set a trap and made Georgie faint. Meanwhile, the pastor met with Kirill and told him about his worries regarding Katie, an American woman. The pastor realized Katie had been hurt and feared she might seek revenge. Back in the sewers, Katie began to hurt Georgie badly. She hurt his face and injured his stomach and thigh, causing a lot of bleeding. Then, Katie rubbed dirt into his wounds and left him there. Not long after, Katie was at the nightclub where Nikolai was. Nikolai was having fun with some girls, not realizing that Katie had put something in his drink. After drinking it, Nikolai felt sick and dizzy, and he ran to the toilet. In the toilet, Katie was waiting for him. When Nikolai fell, feeling very sick, Katie guided him to the bathroom and hurt him. In the end, Nikolai died. After that, Katie went back to Georgie. She gagged him, just like he had done to her, and then left him there. The next day, Katie went to the church to lure Vako, who was praying with Anna. Her plan worked, and Vako followed her. Without wasting time, Katie attacked Vako and knocked him onto a bed. She started torturing Vako with the electric shock device he had used on her. Next, Katie tortured Vako by putting an iron tube in his mouth, causing him to bleed a lot. The worst part was when Katie ran electricity through the iron tube, killing Vako in a horrible way. After killing Vako, Katie went to Georgie's place and took photos of him in his weak state. Meanwhile, Anna arrived at her house and found it in a mess. Hearing singing from the basement, Anna went down and was confronted by Katie, who slapped and pushed her into the sewer. There, Katie tied up Anna and put her in a coffin. She showed Anna the condition of Georgie. Then, Ivan returned home and started looking for Anna. He went to the basement, noticing the mess in the house. At that time, Ivan saw the music box, Katie's grave with a hole, and the sewer. Carrying a weapon, Ivan went through the sewers. Meanwhile, the pastor and Kirill talked again about Katie. Soon after, the pastor guided Kirill to the sewer where Katie was. Then, Ivan found Georgie, but Katie attacked Ivan, knocking him out. When Ivan woke up, he was tied to a table without any clothes. There, Ivan started explaining that Anna was not his real mother, but a woman who was hurt many times by their father, resulting in the births of Nikolai and Georgie. However, Katie didn't care and began hurting Georgie in front of Anna and Ivan. Anna was devastated as she watched Georgie suffer. After Georgie died, Katie closed Anna's coffin and started hurting Ivan. At the same time, Kirill was walking through the sewers to find Katie. Then, Katie began to hurt Ivan by using pliers to pinch his stomach, making him bleed, and then causing more pain to his private parts, causing intense pain and discomfort. While they were staring at each other in silence, Ivan suddenly got up and tried to strangle Katie using the rope that tied her hands. However, Ivan was stopped when Kirill shot him. In the end, Kirill managed to save Katie and apologized to her. After that, Katie left Kirill in the sewers. Not long after, Kirill heard groaning sounds from behind a chest. Soon after, he opened it and found out that Anna was also involved in Katie's case. Meanwhile, Katie went to the United States Embassy, and the story finally ended. The film ends. The moral lesson from this film is always check for hidden cameras and never trust anyone who offers you free photo shoots, especially if they live in a sewer. Also, if someone offers you a drink in a nightclub, make sure it's not spiked with plot twists,